Hi everybody, what we're going to look at for this video tutorial is how to take a design concept and develop it so that we can create a final solution. Now, the development part of any work is always very difficult to do, and if you think that it's about making just minor subtle changes and stating when you come to annotate why those changes have been made, that's the simplest way of going about this. So for this particular project of the incense stick holder, what I've started by doing is I've taken one of my design concepts with its annotation. So here it is, that's my starting point, and that's your starting point as well, to create out the design concept, to add the colour tone, in this case with a timber type coloured pencil, and then to add the annotations that are exactly the same that we took from the range of design concepts previously. So what I'm going to do is make 2 or 3 stepped changes to this design concept and come up with a final solution. And bear in mind, the final solution is the incense stick holder that you're actually going to make. Now, as those changes are going to be made to the whole shape of the concept itself, the first thing to do is to actually draw out a series of crates that are this size. Now, I've said three stages, so I'm going to start off with this vertical line. Okay, that'll do for one end. I'm going to move over to this end here, so that I'm actually getting the same sort of length of crate on each stage of development. Again, I'm pressing on slightly darker, then I'm going to rotate my page because I find that a little bit easier, and I'm looking to get a crate that's a similar sort of thickness or a similar sort of size to the one down the side of my page. There's where my first concept's going to go, or my first stage of development, not my first concept, with a center line. Then my second stage, and again I'm trying to repeat the size of my crate is going to fit in somewhere like that, about there, and just pop in a center line, and the third stage here, and this will be where my actual final idea goes, the one I'm going to make. And by doing it this way, I mean, the more experience you become as a young designer, you know, you won't need to do this. You'll have a better eye, you'll have a better control of your pencil, and there we go. So let's have a look. This is I'll put a line in here as well, just to give me a rough idea of this part here where the tip is. So those are all the same size. Yes, they look a little bit longer than this, but that doesn't matter, the fact they're all the same size. So I'm going to start off with this end here, and I'm going to put that in as I see it. And the first thing that springs to mind is this point and this quite harsh angle. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that curved, and I'm making that curved because I think aesthetically it'll look better. And where I've got a pointed end down at this end here, and again I'm going to turn the page to make it nice and easy for me, and a bit easier too for this tutorial, and I'm going to round that end. So all I've done there is put a rounded end on that end there, round this end rather than have this roof type shape. And I think what I'll do is here I'll turn the page again. I'm gonna put in there just a little V type shape. Again, I'm pressing on that little bit harder purely so that you can see what I'm doing. So my design concept now is my first stage of development, I do beg your pardon, is rounded at that end, rounded on the tip, and I've got safety in mind, picking up on this point here. And I've added this little cutout there, that little V. So I'm now going to go to my second part of my development. Well, before I do that, just to help with the presentation and to show the thought process that goes in from here right the way down to here, I'm going to draw in here just a little what they call development arrow. And that's going to be a chunky arrow which will be coloured in red, and that will help lead my eye around the page, or more to the point, the person we want to explain the development to, from here leading to there. What I'm going to do now is take that same type of arrowhead, okay, there, just sketch it in, showing how I'm leading into this part of the development, and then finally this here. So getting back to the second stage of development, I like that curve, however I prefer it to be a lot fuller. Okay, so I'm going to put a far more sweepy curve in there, and that takes a little bit of the harshness away. There we go. I like the idea of this V, but I probably, let's line that up there. I think what I'll do is make that rounder. So there, I'm making that V, not totally changing it, I'm just making it rounder. There we go. Okay, I've still got this straight line here. And then as far as this goes, well, this pointed bit there, instead of having that straight, I'm gonna just rotate my page to make it easier for me to sketch out, and I'm gonna round that off. I'm gonna put a longer, more steady curve in there. Not gone right to the end quite, because I've got my point on the end, or my rounded point, and slightly more curve there, a bit like an arch of an old church window. So we can clearly see now these straight lines, these straight edges. We can clearly see how we've developed from this stage here. And I'm just going over my pencil construction a bit more densely. I'm going to lighten that up later before I move on to my last tutorial. Okay, we can clearly see these two are very, very similar, but by rounding off the end, by rounding off these little cutouts, by emphasizing this end, we can see we've got that little bit of development in each of those three areas. Now, I don't need to change this end now. I can leave that and just develop this part if I so wish. But we can clearly see that the original design concept leads into development there and leads into development there. So, as I've said, we're going to go to one more stage of development, and this is going to be it. This is going to be the one that I'm actually going to manufacture. So let's just get that in. I'm happy, very happy with that rounded end. So let's put that rounded end in. I'm not going to mess about with that anymore. I think aesthetically that looks good. And remember, aesthetics is to do with the way something looks. So aesthetically I'm happy with that. I quite like this, this rounded end. I'm just going to extend that back out to that full end. That's looking good. It's looking quite plump. and then we're going to round that end off. Okay, it's this part here that I'm not too keen about, and what I'm going to do is just put two little marks there. I like the idea of the curves and the curves and the curves here, but I prefer that to be more gradual. I think that softens these really long straight lines. So I've got a very symmetrical type design here, and for my final go, my final part of the development, you can clearly see now, yeah, I'm happy with that, the similarity between this stage of development and this. And then of course, just to help lead the reader's eye around what's going on in my work, we've got this little developmental arrow, which I'll probably colour these in red a little bit later just as a contrast. Now I'm going to put in my hole in the same position, approximately there, and this is the one that I'm going to do. Now what that doesn't show, that shows me a very flat two-dimensional shape. And the final part of the development is that you've got the use of two different type of formers that you've already been shown. One is what I refer to as a hockey stick, because it's shaped like a hockey stick. It goes along and then just up at a slight angle at a curved end. And the other one is more of an S-type shape. Well, I've decided that I'm going to use the hockey stick type. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate my page to make it a little bit easier for me to sketch out, and I'm going to look at that edge. So this is still part of my concept, or my development I should say, and it's going to come along straight parallel, because we've got a number of layers of veneer. Remember, our veneer is 0.6 millimeters thick. We're going to layer up 5 or 6 pieces, so we've got about 3.5 millimeters in thickness, and we're just going to curve it around. So the former that I'm going for is going to be like that. Now, one thing I have realised is that as I turn that back, I've got that end there curved up, which is fine, but the problem I've got is that I need my incense stick itself sticking up through there so that the ash falls down here. So I'm going to take the hole in that end there, just cross that out there, and I'm going to insert it in that end there, because that's the way that I want the curve to be. If I wanted this flat and wanted to curve it up that end into my hockey stick type shape, I could leave the hole at that end, but I'm going to erase that out and move it to that end so that my incense stick sits nicely into that position there, through that small hole. And that is basically going through, remember, step by step, making minor change, just minor change in different areas. The holes move, look, and to this end, changing it so that we end up with this here that is the final solution. Thanks very much for watching this video. All the best.